Has there ever been a year that's been so packed full of news? We seem to have gone from one enormous news story to the next without pausing for breath. From war in Ukraine, the economy, 3 prime ministers, the death of the Queen, strikes, a Winter World Cup and Waggate. Yeah, OK, who cares about that one? But it has been an action-packed 12 months. So what will we all be talking about next year? To help us look forward, we are joined by Fleet Street legend and former editor of The Sun, Kelvin MacKenzie, to look at Kelvin's crystal ball. Kelvin, welcome along. There he is. Very nice to speak to you, Kelvin. I hope you're having a nice Christmas, and thanks for joining us tonight. So, if you've got Kelvin's crystal ball out, what will we be talking about next year, do you think? It's been a crazy year so far for this one. Can it get any better or bigger next year?
Well, I'm optimistic about next year. I mean, the amount of bad news. I mean, so I say the good news will be the following. Inflation to fall slowly over the year to be not quite down to 2%, but it will completely crash, actually, to be honest, next year. Interest rates not to rise from round about where they are now, you know, so people with mortgages, yeah, they're going to have to pay a little more, but not a lot more. And I think the best news might be, I believe that the Ukraine war will come to an end, which will lead to a complete collapse in energy prices, where demand will be non-existent and supply will be massive. So your energy bills will literally disappear. Now, that's an optimistic view. If, of course, you're a socialist, of course, you will be moaning like hell all year about the following: that energy prices are high, but the other thing you'll be talking about will be, of course, the strikes. Now, these strikes have proved one thing and one thing conclusively, that organised labour cannot destroy our country in the way it could have done 20 years ago. The idea that your railways come to a complete full stop for days upon end, that would have been an absolute commercial disaster for our country. I'm not saying it's not terribly painful. I'm not saying that. But what they can't do is they can't leave us literally, you know, with holes in our shoes, having walked 20 miles to work every day, because people can do what we're doing now, Neil. They can simply, quotes, work from home. Is it as productive? I'm sure it isn't, but it is a substitute. And the other thing it's proved is that organised labour will go to any lengths, including leaving your mother with a shattered hip and having a stroke, lying on the floor for hours on end before an ambulance turns up. When organised labour will do that to your mum and dad or your child or even you, right, you have to say that something has gone seriously wrong with the trade union movement. But look, that's from my political side of the fence. Yeah. I am optimistic about the country that we live in, not least of all because we aren't living in Ukraine. We're not waking up every morning with some huge missile fired from the middle of Russia right into, for instance, today, into a maternity hospital. We do not face those issues. We don't face, you know, for instance, what might be happening in Afghanistan, where you're seeing a queue of people queuing up literally for a loaf of bread. And I think people have completely lost a sense of what is real poverty, real hardship, and real fear against. We are a liberal, successful economy. Sometimes it doesn't look like it, because if you are in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. The truth about the matter is, and I know this, that the reality is that bad news sells. But I think what's happened to mainstream media in a strange way is that it has lost the sense that there's lots of, you can leaven the bread slightly.
Right.
And
okay.
That not everybody is a paedophile. Not everybody is into trans. Not everybody's doing everything. Right. They are just ordinary people trying to do their best.
Okay, let me bring in the panel here, if I can, just for a moment, actually, because, I have to say the expression there, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, it's a tragic one, but I'm sure it's been used many times. So, Dawn Neeson, a former editor of The Star. So, how do you feel about that? Is that your view? Is that the truth?
I'm always a glass half full person, and the paper I edited, I always tried to make sure it was that way as well, because I think when times are hard, what is the point in the media constantly drumming home how miserable it is, how you're all going to die if you step outside your doors, etc., etc. So I'm one of life's natural optimists, and I like Kelvin's optimism for next year. I think, I think we have to believe that things are going to get better. We have to believe that the financial situation will improve. We have to believe there will be an end to the strikes, because otherwise, where do we go with this? Look, the one thing this country does have is a great fighting spirit.
Always.
We've demonstrated it over the decades, and I think now we have to roll up our sleeves, grit our teeth, and get on with making the best of what situation we have. Let's not wallow in it. Let's actually fight and actually make this country great again, because it can be, and we're losing sight of that. And so often the media, GBNews accepted, are constantly lecturing us on how the country's a laughing stock and how, it's the worst place in the world to live. Well, no, if it's such a bad place, why do so many migrants try to risk their lives trying to get here? It's not a bad place. We have to start believing in ourselves again.
I agree. And Adam, look, let me bring you, as a pub landlord, right, you must hear it all, OK? So your regulars that come into your pubs, you got two, haven't you? What's their spirit? I know Christmas, everyone's in a happy mood over Christmas because it's a lovely way of escaping, I suppose, the doom and gloom. But in general, are your bunch a set of optimists? Because we are a great nation. We always have been, always will.
Look, we are. We've got, as Dawn says, we've got that fighting spirit. And, I do get pretty annoyed with the media putting us down all the time, but let's not, I wish I was quite as optimistic as Kelvin with next year and business, because I've got a lot of colleagues in my industry. I'm on WhatsApp chats and, groups and such that, I don't think many of them are going to be around sort of by March, April. The main thing for hospitality has been, I've been warning about all year, even before the media were getting hold of it, is the energy prices, and I tweeted today that the gas prices around the world are tumbling at the moment, and I just hope that filters through to some of the quotes that people are getting. I've recently just accepted a contract for my electricity at one of my pubs, and it's still sort of like 3.5, 4 times what I was paying in 2019.
Sure.
So, we're seeing the markets going in the right direction, but the government cannot subsidise business pricing for much longer. If they extend it past April, I'd be amazed. But, we really do need to see electric and gas prices come down at least 40% to make a lot of these businesses, especially in my industry, to make them viable again. We're seeing prices, inflation, we're getting hit with higher beer prices, higher food prices, higher wages. Everything is going against us. So there needs to be some sort of good news on the horizon, and hopefully these gas prices do continue to fall.
Okay.
But, I mean,
let me bring back in Kelvin, if I could, there for a minute, and then go to you, Amy. OK, next year we've got local elections. How do you feel, Kelvin? I mean, does it all depend on whether Rishi and the Tories get a grip of inflation and our prices? If it starts, as you say, levelling out, maybe and even going down, is that give them a chance? Otherwise, are they going to be annihilated?
No, local elections, they will be beyond slaughtered. I mean, I don't know anybody who is I know some Conservative councillors, by the way, but they will all, if they're standing, they will all be ex-councillors. There is going to be the most shocking turfing out of Conservatives. And because it's a bet to nothing, most people aren't involved in local politics. They don't understand it. The turnout is only about, well, actually, it looks as though the turnout next time will be between 25 and 30%. It'll be absolutely minute. It less than half what you normally get, well, almost a third. And so I expect them to get absolutely slaughtered. I do expect the Tories to get slaughtered, actually, in the general election as well, regardless of what happens. Even if inflation went down to naught, the Ukraine war was ended, I don't see Rishi getting elected, to be honest with you. I'm very negative on that.
OK. Amy, feeling optimistic about next year, or are you gritting your teeth?
Well, when it comes to Kelvin's crystal ball, I don't have much faith in it because of his rather imaginative perception of the present. I think Kelvin's ability to lay the strikes at Labour's door is quite incredible, actually. when we think about the reasons we have unions and unionised industries which have some of the best standards, the reason we have minimum wage, the reason half the people here are on holiday at the moment is because of unions. So I think actually the unions are on strike just because of the mismanagement of this Tory government, which has run the country into the ground. And if Kelvin wants to talk about his imaginary hypothetical lady with a shattered hip lying on the floor for 12 hours, that's nothing to do with Labour, that's nothing to do with the unions, that is solely to do with the mismanaged NHS under a Tory government. So I put to Kelvin that poverty is relative. At the moment, we have more children hungry in our schools than ever before, record inequality, and some of the lowest living standards we'd had in about 50 years. How is this Labour's problem?
Yeah, go on, Kelvin. Give us a final short word if you can answer Amy, please. What do you think?
Well, it's not true about the lowest living standards. I don't know where Amy's obviously been smoking something in the studio before she came on. But we have a fantastic life compared to, I think we're the 6th richest economy in the world, and I expect that to continue next year. And the moment the Ukraine war ends, the sense of optimism throughout the country will be fantastic. So let's keep our fingers crossed that somebody either shoots Putin, or he's defeated, or there's some kind of deal.
Kelvin, a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much indeed for giving up your evening tonight. And thank you very much indeed to my panel as well. Wish you guys a nice evening. Thank you, Kelvin.